Baltimore was a city that was once a manufacturing mecca. And the person that you're looking at right now considers himself a refugee of our failed trade policies.
Wow, that's a clip from a new union ad blaming free trade for Baltimore's decline. Big labor saying it destroys jobs, but Rich says unions should stop the scare tactics and start looking in the mirror. How so, Rich?
They really should. You know, free trade is an engine of global prosperity, but it does make demands that you're going to have to improve what you do. You're going to have to be adaptive and flexible to the changes in the global economy. And unions are the very opposite of that. They kill adaptation. They kill innovation with their rigid work rules. They are to blame.
Now, Emac, there are some job displacements by free trade when free trade comes in, are there not?
Yeah, there is. You know, listen, I believe in free trade, but it's interesting. Boy, the unions have, this is a wake-up call. But I do believe that the trade bill will create jobs in the long term, but there will be pain in the short term.
Okay, John, does the union ad make any sense at all to you?
Yeah, the union ad makes the argument for free trade. Baltimore became a rich city precisely because it was globally engaged with the world in terms of commerce. An economy is just a collection of individuals, and free trade just presumes that you have the most talented individuals on earth vying to serve your needs. And because they're serving your needs, you're most likely to get to do what you're best at. It is, as Rich said, an engine of global prosperity. That's not what's weakening Baltimore.
But, Steve, one thing that the ad says that does make sense, it is true, is that the city's become a mess. They've lost 100,000 people over the past 20, 30 years. So Baltimore is going down, but it's free trade the reason why.
Absolutely not. It's crushing taxes, crummy schools, regulations that drive out businesses, hostile atmosphere, incompetent government. You know, New York was going in that direction 20 years ago. We turned it around in New York, cut taxes, got better policing, and the city prospered. Baltimore's fate's in its own hands, and blaming foreigners for it just shows how bankrupt their political system is.
So, Mike, it's Baltimore's fault that the taxes have gone up and people are paying more, and that's forcing some businesses to move out. Also, of course, crime and drugs is playing a role in the whole thing, too.
I think what's underreported, David, is Baltimore has had for many years a very serious heroin epidemic. In fact, it may be the highest per capita use of heroin in the country. So it's tough to get any economy going under those circumstances. I love free trade. However, this fast-track bill that's currently being worked on is not about free trade. It's about giveaways to big corporations and giving the president more power on immigration, and I'm against both of those things.
Well, Sabrina, that might be true, that it's being loaded up with a lot of stuff, but the bottom line is the union claim that free trade is at the source of all of our problems rings a little hollow to me, no?
Well, it does. I mean, I sympathize with what Emac was saying. And look, I mean, the fact is with trade, there's two sides to the ledger, and we can't only look at the side that talks about jobs. There's also this issue, which in a functioning economy, we need to have access to affordable goods, and that's something that free trade provides, and it makes life for Americans much easier. We forget that, you know, we get produce and flowers and all sorts of things from around the globe that we couldn't even get at different times of the year here if we didn't have this kind of free trade. So it's very important to look at both sides of the ledger.
Rich, I know that union membership is going down tremendously. Over the past 30 years, it's down a lot. However, that argument that we heard at the beginning of the segment does have a little resonance with the body politics, doesn't it?
Yeah, but all you have to do is look at or ask the question, why is Seattle, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, Houston, Dallas, New York City, Boston, why are these places booming? They're booming precisely because they've adapted themselves to an era of globalism.
Emac, it is true. And you think of someplace like Pittsburgh, for example, old-style economy based on steel and other stuff, which was going down, but opened itself up with tax incentives and is now a thriving city.
Yeah, Forbes magazine did a great piece on that. And, you know, you see that in city after city. We saw it in the downturn. Boy, when the tide goes out, you see you swimming naked, as one pundit said. The problem was that the blue-chip companies were chased out of town by high taxes and high regulation. That's what also helped lead to a collapse in job growth in the areas like Phoenix or in Los Angeles. So, you know, this is a big wake-up call. I would say it's going to be a tougher argument when you have wages at 56 cents per hour in places like Vietnam or, you know, Malaysia.
Right. And, John, the fact is, if you don't adapt to the new world, you are going to go down, right? Whether you're a politician raising taxes or a union using old tactics that don't work.
And that's the beauty of free trade, is that it forces us, indeed it allows us to adapt. We hear about duty-free stores. Hong Kong is a duty-free country. It's a duty-free city. That's why it's so rich. They import what others do well, and that allows them to focus on what they do best. That's how you're most productive. Without free trade, we'd live lives of unrelenting drudgery.
But, Steve, you know, they say that the fool's gold of politics is for stopping free trade. It sounds very good. You get a lot of people voting for you if you say you're for jobs and against free trade, but eventually it comes back to bite you.
It not only eventually, it caused the Great Depression, and we learned from that and had a great post-World War II prosperity. The way you get ahead, David, is trading and investing, doing what's best, allowing people to do what they know how best to do. We all benefit from it. We should have learned that 200 years ago.
Last word from Steve. The Cash It In Gang getting